The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, Review.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max's Raw Review for March 20th, 2017. And we, of course, are brought to you by W2Mnet.com. Go check it out for all our great content. Plus, you can also go find all our great content on Wrestling to the Max on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts. Go subscribe now, and as well as you can go to W2M Network to do it. If you want to find all the other great content you find on the website, it's all there on the W2M Network for audio and all your enjoying pleasure. So, but that's all that we have for that. But what we have for you tonight is a great situation of talking about some Monday Night Raw, and we're going to do that now. I'm your host, Gary Vaughan. Of course, with me is Mr. Paul Leazar.
Heyo.
And the guy that's going to lead us on this journey, Mr. Sean Garmer.
What's up, everybody?
Yeah, guys. Okay, well, here we are. We're going to talk Raw. Now, everybody, remember, this is the lead up to, Wrestlemania, the biggest wrestling event of the year. So beware. We'll tell you more about it. But, Sean, let's go down that path and talk some Raw.
The ultimate thrill ride, this was not. It's more like the ultimate snooze ride of Raw, leading up to WrestleMania. As, I'm sorry, sometimes, let's get a joke in there. But Mick Foley, he was not joking around to start this show, as he basically reads off a bunch of index cards what Triple H and Stephanie wanted him to say, that he was taking a leave of absence. Well, he decides that, screw that. I'm not going to just be talking off index cards, because he's Mick frickin' Foley. And, so basically he keeps he wants to go on this rant, but they keep cutting his microphone, and Stephanie comes out and makes fun of him, saying that he could never do anything right, and basically she ends up firing him. And then Sami Zayn comes out to the rescue. Sami Zayn gets made fun of. Basically, Stephanie cutting his balls off, saying that he is not at the level of a guy that can come and interrupt her. And so Zayn thinks about leaving, he doesn't. And so Samoa Joe comes out and makes it to where, well, you are going to have to leave whether you want to or not. And then you find out that it's Samoa Joe versus Sami Zayn right after the break. And this was the last time that the crowd would be pleasant. Because the rest of this show, they were not, so to speak. But this match was damn good for the time it got. And, both of them just went back and forth, balls to the wall. Joe eventually taps out Sami Zayn with the Coquina Clutch, and Joe wins, looking freaking awesome as he has been since he debuted. And Sami Zayn, of course, losing again, but it kind of goes with the Foley storyline, so I don't have a problem with it. But yeah, and then they show Mick Foley leaving. He hugs Bayley. The queen of hugs. And then Triple H has to be the total dick and say, "Have a nice day," and he leaves. So, Yeah, that's your follow-up from last week's ending of Raw. How do you guys think that they pulled it off here?
You know, I didn't think it was too bad, to be honest with you. In fact, if I'm going to say there's a more maybe entertaining part of this show, this could be it. I get to understand that, we're going to have this normal thing where Stephanie cuts the guy's balls off. That's normal. That's never going to change. That'll always be there. So there's no sense in complaining about it. There's no sense. Just that's what we get. But I do enjoy Mick Foley.
I wonder if because she can't cut Triple H's balls off, she has to get that sensation from doing that to the talent. That there has to be a reason that this is just in here.
Well, she owns his. That's the problem. Is she already owns his. She doesn't have to cut him off. She castrated him a long time ago, but she's got to find other people now because he's tied down now. He has no choice in this matter. So she's just it's kind of like a serial killer in a way. It's like, I got my first. Now I got to get more. It's harder and harder as the time goes by, but I still got to get more.
Jeez.
So. I mean, I'm not saying that I know anything about that. I'm not saying that I have personal experience in. Let's move on. But let's talk about.
Wow.
Let's go on and talk. Let's talk about the fact that you're right. This is something where I think Mick Foley actually had a pretty good segment himself, and this whole thing, it's very believable. It's the whole corporate thing, right? He's got to read off the cue cards and blah blah blah. But then they cut his mic. It's very believable. If, let's just say a guy was to actually do this and just throw away the script and actually go, that's exactly what they would do, right? They would cut his mic. They'd come out there, do whatever they could, address it. So I appreciated all that. Even that long segment where you have Mick Foley walking down the hallway and shaking hands and all that stuff, and then, of course, seeing Triple H at the end. I think all that was a good part of this show, and it was kind of a good conclusion to this part of it, if you want to say it that way. This is all supposing that Mick Foley is not going to be around at WrestleMania, which I think he's having hip surgery, so not sure he will or will not be at WrestleMania. So, in all, this was not bad, and including the Sami Zayn thing in here, it makes sense. Sami Zayn is one of those guys that you could totally see in that role of, I'm going to step up for the guy that's getting screwed over. I'm the little guy. I'm used to it, so I'm going to help out somebody else in this situation. So overall, I enjoyed it.
I think Foley is going to show up, though, because Joe and Owens are going to get involved in that match. Or at least Joe will.
I don't know. I don't know, and I only say that because the way they've built all of this around Triple H and Stephanie and Foley here, there's not a whole ton of investment going the other way onto the guys who are actually going to be in the ring outside of Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho's long storied friendship that's sort of blowing up. Everything else is sort of background pieces or, parts that people really want to pay attention to, but you don't have a lot of exposition and storytelling going on with them, which is very unfortunate. But I think, just to me, it feels like they're focusing so much on this that it's hurting the overall interest in the Raw portion of the card, unless you care about Roman Reigns or unless you care about Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. Everything else is just sort of shuffled to the side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I get that. I mean, you're right. Everything else is kind of pushed to the side, and they want to focus on those big matches. Those are the people they want to focus on. And this storyline, I think, only was good on this episode of Raw because of what reason? That exact reason. Everything else doesn't matter. And you're not going to get Brock Lesnar and Goldberg on this show, and you're going to get a little bit of Roman Reigns, not a ton. So what do they have to focus on this besides the rest of it? So I think that's why this stood out as being a positive thing for me. Otherwise, maybe I don't like it as much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like, the Foley being GM thing has always kind of been hit and miss. So this was kind of expected. I think we all knew it was sort of the charade from the beginning, right? We expected that Triple H and Stephanie were going to eventually assume power at some point, that they were just delaying the inevitable. So, okay, here we go. It kind of sucks because it had been fun to not have the authority on Raw completely for a while. Like, it felt fresh. And now it's like, okay, well, here we go again. We have the authority.
Right.
And it's like, are they going to just continue this again after it's over, after WrestleMania, and we're going to go back to the same old, because is it because of ratings or what it is? But, I mean, Mick Foley always finds a way to make himself compelling, so that's not the problem here. It's just, the thing is, as we find out during I guess I should have tied this all in too, is the Triple H promo that happens later after we have this sort of interview with Rollins' doctor, where he says, well, Rollins is having a ridiculous rehab, but I don't think he's ready for WrestleMania, and if he does show up at WrestleMania and has a match, then he will wind up back here the next day. Basically saying he'd be going to re-injure himself. And so Triple H has the promo, and, he dogs Rollins' injury again. He makes fun of, like, it's a bad sort of joke that he says, but, I think Triple H did a great job of keeping the crowd involved, and he probably did the best of anyone to make sure that they didn't, stray too far off, keeping it on topic, making sure to involve Rollins. But the thing is, people didn't care about Rollins. That's been the entire problem in this feud, is that people don't care that much about Seth Rollins. So, hopefully WrestleMania will change things because you have a different crowd there, but maybe Brooklyn was just being completely obnoxious. But they've just done such a poor job with Rollins with this his face run, that when it comes down to the money part of it, you're not getting the reaction that you need.
It doesn't hurt that he's always injured. Let's be honest. I mean, his injury situation has really affected him. I think you're going to see the same thing with Finn Balor to an extent when he comes back. I mean, he's going to be starting from the ground up again. And Seth
I think
Rollins
Finn's different, though. He's out for a long, 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 long time. He'll probably get the initial Rollins reaction, but it's about how they deal with that and what they do afterwards. Whereas with Rollins, they botched it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. But, also the thought process on, Finn Balor is, he came in as a babyface. He's going to come back in as a babyface. Rollins was trying to make that quick turn into the face after being a heel for so long and, getting out of that injury. I don't know. I just think that people have to get reinvested in Seth Rollins, and it's not going to happen overnight. And that's the problem here, is that do you really care about Seth Rollins? You just don't know if you do. And not only that, do you really care about seeing him face Triple H? I don't know if I do. I'm personally not screaming and crying excited to see Triple H back in the ring. Yeah, sure. I mean, I enjoy Triple H in his heyday, but I honestly could care less. Just like I'm not really caring about Shane McMahon wrestling at WrestleMania. That is not why I'm going to watch WrestleMania. It's fine if you have it there. If we have, it's one of those. If I have to have it, I'll take it. That's the way I feel about Triple H. The way I feel about this, and kind of the way I feel about Seth Rollins, to be honest with you.
I think I'm kind of in the other camp from you guys. I think there is some heat for Seth because that return angle last week, or the week before, or whenever it was, whenever he came out with the crutch and then tossed it aside, like they popped pretty huge for him. So I think there's interest here. I just don't think they've done a spectacular job, even before all of this started going down, of really showing you and really getting you jazzed for this match. They waited too long, and I think that's where a lot of maybe some apathy is coming from for a lot of fans in this situation. I don't think it's necessarily Seth's fault. I think he's done an admirable job for what they've tried to get him to be and to do and all these other things, but I think it's just more of that waiting forever to do this has really taken some of the edge off of this, and that's sort of where you're getting, I think, where a lot of people are coming from.
And I don't think you're wrong with that assessment either, because it is that whole thought process of, man, we should have already had this a long time ago. They drug this out. It's so much that now my interest is faded. Mm-hmm. And I think, like you're saying, a lot of people feel that way too. So, I mean, it'll be nice that they'll get this out of the way, but I just kind of hate it too because we had to play the injury angle. And usually in wrestling, the injury angle is kind of a fun little thing, but for this one, they're just throwing the doctor out there, all this different stuff, and then I'm just like, oh my God, I kind of feel like I already know what's going to happen at WrestleMania, and I don't. Just leave it up in the air. Say, is he going to be okay? Isn't it? I think the intrigue would be better if you give less information than throwing all this other stuff in our face.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's just, like what Paul said, I mean, they waited so long on Rollins, they messed up at the beginning anyway, and, when you go against the grain so much, sometimes it doesn't work out easily the other way. They gave him that big reaction, I think, on, was it last week or a couple weeks ago? But, each crowd is different, and it doesn't remain consistent throughout. That's an issue, too. So you have to get that to remain consistent with everybody. And, you would hope for him that it does, and you hope WrestleMania is that one thing that finally changes it. But, they have to remain consistent with his character, and they can't have him keep, the way he cuts a promo is still heel promo, the way that he says certain things. His wrestling has always been sort of almost face in the way that he does so many moves and all that kind of stuff, but it's just, you have to take all the things into account too before you make that decision to go one way or the other, instead of just, okay, well, we're trying so hard to keep things the way they were, and instead of being natural with stuff, and sometimes being natural with things. Like we've said with Roman for so many years now, and perhaps WWE is finally realizing it, even though not really, because they made sure, the one thing they made sure to do was to mute the crowd when Roman came out. In fact, they made sure that they didn't even have Roman do his entrance. He did it during the commercial. So, it is what it is, I guess. Vince will still be his stubborn ass self.
Yeah, true about that. And I want to say this real quick before we move on. Seth Rollins, and that segment next week will be very important. It's going to be a really important time for him and Triple H both to really get people on board, to care, and to really get excited. If they can do that, I think they go into WrestleMania strong. If they flop, don't be, wondering why no one really cared when that match takes place at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Roman and Braun just absolutely bored me to tears, to be honest with you. It was slow, it was plotting, and nobody really gave a shit until they started doing the Undertaker stuff. So
Yeah. But you knew what was going to happen, I think, to an extent, but then again, maybe not. I was a little bit more surprised. Here we go again. Roman Reigns is the kryptonite to Braun Strowman. No one else can really do that to him. And, right before, Roman Reigns and the Empire fall upon the mighty Braun Strowman, the Undertaker, does his thing. And you've got to have this happen. I know people who hate Roman Reigns are going to say, well, man, why? This just made him look good. But you need him to look good. You need him to feel strong. Because if you're going to believe that he's going to take on Undertaker and win, he's got to look good against Taker and Braun Strowman. He's got to be against, some of the strongest guys on the roster. So I don't have any arguments against it. It's just like Paul said. It was kind of predictable, just kind of the ho-hum. Yeah, I mean, nothing super exciting.
Yeah, oh, God. I mean, it doesn't help that the crowd just didn't give a crap. They were muted. And also, in muting the crowd makes you not care. Because it's like, it goes, okay, well, why do I need to care about this? If you're telling me that the crowd already doesn't,
Yeah.
So it's just, this just felt like it didn't have much energy. And then we waited until explicitly after 11 o'clock to air this too. Like, you waited until the overrun to do this match because why? Like, just why? It makes me laugh so hard that they cut SmackDown off at 10, no matter what happens, but Raw has to have this 15 to 20 minute overrun. Like, it's amazing to me. Like, do you not realize how long your show is already? That you have to do this? It's like...
Yeah, you're not wrong.
But
it's just one of those where, my God, you already got 3 hours. You're trying to invest people for 3 hours, and then hey, guess what? Let's add another 15 to 20 minutes to that, and you'd be excited because the last thing you're going to hear is Roman's music, and at least tonight you didn't, it was Taker's, but compared, still it was almost that case. So I don't know. This didn't have to be the strongest Raw, I guess, in the world, but the ending was decent, but the match itself was ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll say that at least the crowd popped for Taker, and it could have just been because he's out there to try to kick Roman Reigns' ass. But
they went insane. Like, my God, I felt like it just went. Well, that's probably because they popped the music, the crowd volume back up as soon as he came out. But like, it felt like this just explosion happened when he came out. I was like, holy crap, this is insane. But yeah,
they loved it. And really, I think that was the most energy I heard during that third hour was for that. But I still am not overly excited about the match. I think it'll be fine, but I'm not really jazzed at all about it, to be honest.
Well, I have my fears about it as well. There's some situations where we've seen that Taker has not been in his top of his game, and that's at WrestleMania, of course, when he's usually there wrestling, and I just get a little worried. I think Roman Reigns is doing better. He's definitely grown as a wrestler. He's worked very hard to get to that point, but I don't know if I'm sold on it either. We'll see. They may surprise us.
Yeah, very true. So let's move on to the other things that happened on this show, which, let's be honest, there weren't really a whole lot more things because there was quite a few video packages here. I did mention the two women's matches. They had Charlotte take on Dana Brooke. Charlotte pretty much disposed of Dana. This is where we got our first "We Want Paige" chant here. So we'll talk about that more if depending on what order you listen to this in. Or, of course, we know what happened with Paige and the video leaks and the pictures and all that. We're going to talk about that on the regular W10 Part 1 episode. But you had this. This was, Dana was really on fire here. Look, the crowd did not give a crap about this, but I thought Dana looked good here as far as just constantly going after Charlotte, being pissed at her, all the things you want from somebody that's really angry about this feud. But it's just like, on what planet? And I think they could have pulled this off when they were originally doing this, back, God, I forgot how many months ago it was. Dana was actually getting a face reaction at certain points during that. I think if we all remember, like they carried this on so long to do the turn that I think just people just said, okay, like who gives a crap, And then you had Nia Jax and Bayley, which I mentioned they had. I thought it was actually a decent match here. And again, this is where I think the crowd just... Look, I'm going to be honest here. I think a lot of people's feelings toward a lot of these matches, like other than, like some that were just kept short, the crowd just being totally not giving a shit also sort of makes you not give a shit either. So as much as you wanna care about the match, and I think the only people that really cared are the ones that have to watch this, or something like us, where we have to talk about this show, and we have to like fight through the negative things to try to find positive things sometimes. And I think this is one of them where this maybe wasn't the best Bayley and Nia Jax match, but I don't know, I didn't think it was just flat out boring. Where it merited the crowd just totally crapping on it from the word go either.
Yeah, and it's one of those where I was looking for this to happen. It did happen, and I'm glad it did because I think Nia Jax being a part of a Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania is a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all. So I'm really happy about that. The way that Bayley was in this match, she didn't look like she was just awful. But, I mean, you are having your women's champion get tossed around pretty good. I mean, honestly, let's look at that picture and say, usually they don't let the champion get beat down as much as they did here with Nia Jax, and so I think that's just proof in the pudding of what they want to do. I don't hate it. Bayley is still doing her thing, right? She's still trying to get the crowd behind her. She hugged Mick earlier in the night, and then of course she had a little talk with Stephanie and told Stephanie, I used to look up to you and all that kind of stuff. So she's trying her best to get people to, buy into her, to buy into the fact that she's just sweet Bayley and she just wants to do all the right in the world. She's kind of doing what Sami Zayn's doing in a way, right? They're playing off that, we're good people. I'm a nice person. I'm a Dudley Do-Right. Just love me. And I think that's what she's trying to pull off here too. And it's fine. It's not great. It's not what I want to see per se. It's Bayley, but I don't know. But outside of that, I do want to point, Sean, you made a great point about Dana Brooke. And the Dana Brooke thing, I think, really also kind of goes with hand in hand like the Seth Rollins thing. She took time off. She went, and I think she may have been injured at one time, but I do know that she went and worked at the Arnold Classic. I think she, actually did some stuff there. So she took her time off, which doesn't help. When you're not around, especially when you're not a character that people really, let's be honest with, have a lot invested in, it's really hard for them to care even, after you take a long hiatus. So this is fine. I mean, you knew that Charlotte was going to win just because, my God, if they would have had Charlotte lose, she doesn't go to the title match at WrestleMania. So I hope the best for Dana Brooke. I think that they can do something with her because we've seen in the past, there is, like Sean said, there's proof in the pudding that she can have a babyface run. But we'll see if that takes place. But all this was a setting up for WrestleMania.
I think Dana Brooke and Charlotte really suffered from a poorly planned out match of having Dana go on a freaking run and then Charlotte just absolutely ends her with one big boot and they call it a day. It's real hard to get behind a babyface when they lose that easily. I'm not saying they need to have a knockout, drag-out fight, but at least make Charlotte work for it somewhat. Just don't let her roll Dana completely. I think Nia and Bayley was what it sort of needed to be. Nia looks strong. She's in the match now. I think I was a larger fan of the three-way, but Nia can add a dynamic that the other three can't, and obviously they're high on doing something with Nia in the future. So I'm not overly excited for that match either, which really speaks to, I think, about 3/4 of the WrestleMania card, but I think it still could have the potential to be a really great match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you made the point about Charlotte against Dana. I think even right here, what we got, I'm blanking on the finisher, but the finisher that was used on Bayley was not, the strongest finisher itself. And so I think at the end of the day, they were telling us that, hey, this is what we're doing. This is why we want to do it. But I agree with you to the point. I mean, they didn't do any favors for Dana Brooke. This really didn't do a lot of favors for Bayley either, to be honest with you. I really don't think it did, but their goal is just to get to
this match didn't need to happen, honestly. Nia should have been added weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
When Nia had the first shot at winning, because she's already beaten Bayley before, she's already beaten Sasha before. When she had that first shot, they should have put her in then, instead of giving it to Sasha and then putting the storyline through, and then you just have Nia beating people again, maybe beating up Bayley backstage and beating up Sasha and having sort of stare-offs with Charlotte, and then, you still have the big, the main three just kind of going, having their thing that they have with each other. And you can still involve Bayley in the Mick Foley thing if you want to, but, for me, it's just, like, Nia needed to be a bit more involved, and it just feels like a total, we're just adding her now, because we sort of had the idea of going with Triple Threat for a little bit, and then decided, oh, no, we need to add Nia again. And it's just that poor planning deal of not having something set and not, sticking with something. Just, it rubs off on your show, and it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. The Cruiserweights had 2 matches here. The Brian Kendrick beat TJP again, and my analysis on Twitter was, good Lord, how far has TJ Perkins fallen? And just this felt like it was nothing. I mean, why? You could have just had Brian Kendrick come out and do his lesson thing and take up another minute delivering it, and it would have done just as much. For me anyway. I don't see why TJP needed to take another loss and look stupid here.
It's almost like he, did something wrong, or they just all of a sudden heard a few fans complain against him, and then they said, "Oh, well, yeah, we don't like him either." Ha ha ha.
No, I think it's like Vince finally figured out that he thinks the video game stuff is stupid, and that we're just gonna bury him because TJP is not a talker, so we'll bury him. Which, look, I get it. WWE, you got to have both to be something, but this is supposed to be the different division. It's supposed to be the division about, action and wrestling and stuff, not what everything else is in WWE. But, Vince doesn't want to do it that way, so, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also because the show is not doing well, so he's going back to his, well, this is how I know how to book, so we're going to treat everything the same, and we're going to try to get the people over that get over normally in WWE. Like, for say, an Austin Aries, who got a good pop when he came out, but again, they were so focused on having to mute the crowd because of other stuff that Austin Aries and Tony Nese's match suffered here. My problem with this is that Austin Aries is supposed to keep telling people that he's above the Neville level, but somehow he's struggling to beat Tony Nese. So, how is he above Neville again? Explain that to me, because I kind of lost there. And he interrupts Neville coming out to basically telling him the same thing.
You know, I get that, and I understand where you're coming from. The one thing I will say is, I've said this plenty of other times before, Tony Nese is going to be your future Cruiserweight champion. We're biding our time till it happens. Once we get past all these names that we know very well, and we know, of course, Austin Aries, we know Neville very well, he's the guy that's going to come up and grab, that title eventually. And until then, he's got to look good. And they did a good job of making him look good at the beginning here. I hated the end. And I know people, you're probably going to say, what the heck? I completely hated the domination that Austin Aries had at the end. Let's be honest, that made Nese look terrible. That made him look like TJP. I just felt like, oh my God. So now it goes from this guy looking pretty darn good, like he compete with one of the best cruiserweights, to he looks like an idiot. He looks like he's, Zack Ryder or something like that, where it's, hey, I'm here to get squashed. Just do 5 moves on me, play around with your hands, and you win. That's exactly what happened. Austin Aries was doing hand motions for like 15 minutes back and forth before he even pinned him. So I just think it was goofy. It was kind of silly. And I like Austin Aries. I just think they did not help Tony Nese at all here. They made him look like an idiot.
I mean, TJP isn't the focus of the show anymore, and I think that's sort of where he's going. He's a guy who they built up. He has a name, and letting whoever is a big part of the show right now, beat him is going to help them more right now. And I just sort of think that's where they're at. When it comes to the Austin Aries match, they've been a little, I don't want to say shaky. It's almost like they don't trust him. Like, he's having these matches and he's winning them, of course, but he's not looking dominant. He's not really looking like he is that cut above that he keeps saying, like Sean is saying, but at the same time, he is winning, and Neville hasn't exactly looked like he's a cut above everybody he's come against either. So, it's just, I think, typical Grant. I did not like the promo, though. I thought it was very stilted, very stale, very heard it all before, and I'm interested in the match because I think it will be good wrestling-wise, but as far as build goes, I've gone from excitement to very ho-hum, like here's these guys to say the same thing over again. So hopefully on 205 Live, they come at this from a different angle and try to reinvigorate it some.
Yeah, and they need to, for sure. I will say this. I do appreciate the fact that Neville is made to be the top dog. The guy that, has all the power at this moment. He's the big boss. That's what's fun about this. I mean, you have Austin Aries as being kind of the last hope. Kind of the last of the the last of the Mohicans who can come out and take care of business compared to this rest of this roster who's been unable to dethrone Neville. So we'll see. I mean, I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there, Gary. But moving on here, we have the Cesaro and Sheamus versus Cass, Enzo, Gauss, and Anderson. It's a 4-on-2 handicap match. If Cesaro and Sheamus lose, they are out of the tag title match at WrestleMania. I should mention that after Mick Foley gets, relieved of his duties, Stephanie becomes, Stephanie, the Stephanie we know and love all the time, to all the faces on this show, and this is part of her being vindictive. This doesn't even go anywhere. It's like 45 seconds, which I just don't see the point in doing this at all. Why? If we're not even going to have the match and not even going to add any kind of possible, oh, well, this happened and whatever, if we're just going to, the tag champs just attack Enzo and Cass and then, they're distracted because of that, so Sheamus hits a bro kick and we win. It's like, what? Is your mission to make Gauss and Anderson look dumb every week on Raw? Like, what? What do you gain? How does that help your talent at all? I do not understand this. It's like Vince must just get himself off on these things of, how can I amuse myself on Raw every week? Let's put in a couple of things to amuse myself, because there is just no other explanation for this other than that. Just none.
Yeah. It's the tag team division on Monday nights is awful. I mean, this Raw tag division is just the worst. It's boring. I have no care in the world about it. I mean, you're probably right, Sean. This may be a cruel joke. It's got to be, right? Because the way that they treat these guys, it's like, hey, how bad did we treat them last week? We'll find a way to make them look worse. And not only that, I could just see Vince on the phone to Japan every week going, ha, did you see what we did to Gallows and Anderson? Ha, 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 click, hang up. It's just ridiculous. I'm just sick of it.
Oh, Paul, like, could you see Vince trying to find somebody that, like, Albert tells him talks to Ghetto, and it's like, call that dude again, Albert, and tell him how we fucked with their Gallows and Anderson. Just keep telling him. Ghetto probably just hangs with the phone. I don't give a shit,
I'm too busy
man.
making money. Yeah. This tag is very pointless, other than serving a brief reminder that these three teams are not fans of each other, and that Cesaro and Sheamus, who were a Foley creation, play fodder to Stephanie McMahon once again, playing into a feud that will have zero payoff at any point ever, and Raw is constantly built around it. Thank you, WWE.
Right. The only thing that we haven't talked about is the highlight reel, which I thought this was actually good from Jericho because, again, like, I want to make this point clear that the only people that were able to hold the crowd's attention tonight were Triple H, Samoa Joe, and Sami Zayn in their match, and Chris Jericho. That's it. And Undertaker. That's it. Everybody else, and we're talking about 3 Attitude Era part-timers here. Well, Jericho's full-time for now. But 3 Attitude Era guys, and 2 that are just loved from like having wrestled around in that area and everything else. And it was also the only like one match that was made possibly with Brooklyn in mind at all. Everything else, current era guys and women, did not give a total crap about. And I mean, look, I think this crowd is just being totally obnoxious. And I think they might have set out to be obnoxious. And that's fine. But this is a smarky crowd. And I think we should expect them to be better than this. But this is also sort of following that casual line of not caring about all of your talent that's going to be around for the next year, where Jericho, he's going to do his thing where he goes off at Fozzy sometimes. Triple H is going to be around, of course, but he's not going to be wrestling. So he's not going to be hyping himself up like this, like he is right now. And, Foley, who knows what's going to be going on with him, and Undertaker, he's going to be gone. So, that's scary if you're WWE. I don't know if that makes, Vince doesn't ever seem to care, it seems like, but unless it involves Roman Reigns. But I just want to point that out, that's an important thing here. But Jericho, I love the fact that Jericho is so great that he has changed that phrase of his from the drink it in man to the friends of Jericho, cheer me on, man. And people still do it. It's just, Jericho is amazing. Like, I don't know what, like, fountain of youth he hit when he decided to come back this time, but he drunk that in, and it engulfed him, because everything he's done during this run has been just bam, 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 bam. Nothing fails for this guy. But, once again, he says stuff about the Kevin Owens putting him in the hospital. He wants that time back. He points out the Owens picture with him in the Y2J shirt with having all the posters. I do like how they sort of disfigured Sonny in the poster behind him, so that he didn't have to say that was Sonny in that picture, but that's a Sonny poster. And yeah, I mean, so then Joe showed up and Kevin Owens attacked him and pop-up powerbomb, and there you go. I think it's, again, an effective segment that gets heat on Kevin Owens. Jericho gets to get crowd reaction, face crowd reaction, and more set up for your match at WrestleMania.
Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. I mean, Sean just hit on all the things that I kind of took away from this, and that's why I really enjoyed it. And, Jericho, as long as he's been around, and a guy that, just has been a dependable veteran, he continues to rebuild, regenerate his character over and over and over again. And I love the fact that he touched on some of his past catchphrases, like the Ayatollah of Rock and Roll, things like that, to kind of throw in here, because he's talking about Kevin Owens and his youth, and maybe who Jericho used to be, like he's a sexy beast. He said that, brought some of those old things out. So I really enjoyed that. I appreciated that, and it was kind of something that made this promo even more special. Overall, I mean, I thought that they did a good job with this. I'm really happy with it.
Gary said the thing I was going to say about Jericho. His ability to reinvent himself and find a way to keep himself relevant is really what makes him one of the all-time greats. This promo is a great example of why this feud and this match for WrestleMania is probably so hyped as it is, because it's well built. Owens has had a chance to say his piece. Jericho now has a chance to say his piece and then gets attacked for it because Owens is a giant dick. And it works so well. It's got history. It has life to it. And I can't speak well enough about how well they've done with this feud. Whether it's accidental or on purpose, they're knocking this one out of the ballpark. One of the few things I think you could say about Raw.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And one thing, Paul, you did a good job there, because you reminded me of something that I want to let people know. And if you watch Monday Night Raw, and you do like Kevin Owens, and you think he's a jerk on screen, on TV, when it's live, you need to go to YouTube or go to WWE.com and go watch when they do some of these backstage interviews. And in fact, on our episode, Wrestling to the Max, episode 239, part 1, we're going to have a little clip, and it's just a clip. It's edited of his little promo backstage on a little video package. You need to go check those out because, man, he is such a jerk, especially when it's not on the actual show. So it's fun. He's great at it, and
That's probably
I
because
think
he's
that
ad-libbing there.
Yeah, you're probably right. But just like with the interviewer, and I didn't put this on our intro, but he tells him to get on his knees, get down to his level because he's sitting down. And basically then stands up and says, "What are you doing on your knees? You're weird." So I love that about him, and I think that he's going to take the formula. I hope he's going to take the formula that we've seen Jericho do, and that's like we keep talking about. He's regenerating his character. He's redoing it just to be better. So I'm glad. I'm really happy. This is one of the strong points of what's going on here on Raw.
Well, Kevin Owens is like one of the last true. Like along with the Miz, of understanding I'm a heel. I need to do heel things. I don't care if the crowd boos me. I don't need to be cool. My job is to make you hate me. I'm going to do what I need to do to get you to hate me. As much as I don't like the guy, Mike Bennett had a really good tweet that I retweeted. He said he was talking to the indie wrestling talent. He said, "Look, guys, you don't have to go hug and shake hands with every guy you wrestle after the match. You can hate the other guy. That's totally okay. Or you can hit them and have them hate you. It is about characters after all." So, and Kevin Owens gets that. And Jericho gets that, obviously being an old school guy, but WWE has, and just wrestling in general, has very few ultra heels anymore. Like that's why Lashley works so well in TNA, because why? Because he doesn't give a crap if you hate him or not. He knows he's a badass dude. Just like Brock, we hate him, but he doesn't give a crap either. Joe doesn't give a crap either. Like, that's why they're so good. Because they're not sitting there worried about... They're sitting there doing their job. And they don't care about whether, oh my god, the crowd has to like me, or I have to make sure I do this cool move, or whatever. It's just like, look, you can have your subset of fans or whatever based on what you do, but make sure that you're delivering the side of the coin that you're on, And I think that got lost in the shuffle somewhere. But, I think that definitely Kevin Owens needs to be commended for that, because on Twitter he still does it, and it's great.
He's a master of Twitter. Like, that dude knows how to use that platform like few others I've seen.
God, his shots on Goldberg are hilarious.
Boy.
Man, he unloads on stuff. But yeah, even like I think the PR people messed up on like a picture of, like, it's supposed to be Roman and Braun, and they had it said Braun Strowman, but it had Kevin Owens' picture there. He had a really good one for that too. It was great.
I love it. It's awesome.
Oh, well, I forgot to mention I saw a lot of people upset about this on Twitter, and of course this has been a whole big ordeal anyway, but New Day, they were given a pre-taped promo so that they could just shut off the crowd completely. Even though you could hear New Day instead of, replace the S with the F, and you know what I'm saying here, but they start. A lot of people did not care for the way that they started the promo with Woods sort of acknowledging that there's something that's been happening, but not saying it and saying WrestleMania instead, where they ask him, hey, is something you need to talk to us about? And, I don't know that needed to really even be in there. But again, like, it just depends on how big this really is, and we don't know. Because again, like there's been so many times where you think social media makes something big and it never reflects on the ratings, or social media makes something big and you go on Raw and nobody chants anything or whatever, but they were in a crowd where they were going to chant it. But either way, the promo was what it was. It lasted about 2 minutes, but I just thought that was sort of interesting. Of people were really just not happy about that they even made any kind of allusion to it at all.
I don't know why you would care. I mean, really, honestly, I think I'd rather them acknowledge it to some point because it happened. I mean, it's nothing you could do about it now. So let it be known to an extent without saying anything. Then, of course, this show is still PG, right? So you're not saying anything, but you're alluding to something that's very real. They do this in comic book movies. Maybe not be about the exact same topic, but they make reference to things that, the normal kids don't understand, but other people do that, read comics, things like that. It's okay for them to do this in wrestling, too. I mean, not a big deal. Hey, trust me, it's the best thing probably about this whole entire promo was dumb. But what are the New Day right now? Dumb. They have nothing to offer you, really. So, yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot to say about it. I didn't even care about this. I was kind of bored.
I found it funny, personally. I would rather them at least... I know acknowledging it is probably not what a lot of people want or whatever, because that way you'll keep the damage low and people trying to figure this out if they aren't on, plugged into the internet and all that stuff. It keeps them sort of from away and trying to find out about it. But Xavier Woods, the entire time that since his portion of all that has come out, has been either making jokes or just sort of rolling with it. And
yeah,
for me, I think I prefer that as to outright just not acknowledging it. It exists. What happened to them was illegal. It was not their fault. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just funny. It's funny how like Xavier's just been taking a total, kind of thought on it of, hey, it's not their fault. They didn't sit there and put him out intentionally. So he feels like, what's the point? I mean, also, he did get 1 million subscribers on his Up Up Down Down channel, whatever. So, that's good for him too. It shows that this whole thing has been working for him, that he's been doing, and it's been helping WWE as well. So, you can also, I think there's also a little bit of, does he feel like maybe he won't get punished because New Day are so big or whatever, but we're not talking about that on this podcast. But I'm just saying, like, I think WWE sort of, they let him do it because it's a pre-tape and the crowd, they can shut up the crowd, so it doesn't matter. You can get mad all you want on the internet, but it's not gonna do anything. So, let's let's go ahead and get into a rating for this show.
All right. Yeah, for me personally, I think this show was just kind of a setup show. Really, honestly, the best things on it for me were just really, honestly, the talkie segments. The matches were nothing special. It really didn't have so much to offer you that you were just super excited. And there were so many video packages and things like that. I mean, it was tough at times to get through. But I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I guess I can't really blame them because it is close to WrestleMania. But yeah, outside of that, it's 5 is where I'm going.
I think outside of the first hour and a couple of other segments here or there is not a whole lot to sink your teeth into unless you are just diehard into the Stephanie Mick Foley thing, which I don't think a lot of people are. So, yeah, I'm leaning more towards the Bret Hart special, 4 out of 10.
That's where I'm going to. I think this is what it is. It's just sometimes this happens a lot with this WrestleMania. It's happening. I think honestly, with all the injuries that have happened, and with all the injuries that have happened in the past, they're getting a lot more weary about having big matches with a lot of the wrestlers wrestling in the weeks building to WrestleMania because they don't want to, they all got injured and crap. They got injured on Raw. Give them a night off from wrestling where you can, especially because they still have to do house shows. Until they get to that week of WrestleMania or whatever. So, I don't have a problem with it. It's just, this is kind of what you're going to get, right? At this point, you are just kind of watching these shows because they're there and you're watching WrestleMania or you're not.
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly the truth. So we'll have to continue. Yeah. Well, we are going to get out of here, but that is this week's Raw for everyone. Don't forget, if you want to hear more about us talking about the Paige situation and all that, you're going to find that on episode 239, part 1. That's where we're going to get into that whole discussion in a full-length forum, give you our opinions, give you all that entails that, plus a lot more great wrestling news, and also some Ring of Honor talk as well. So you're not going to want to miss that show. And hey, to find that show and a lot more, make sure you don't forget to go check out W2Mnet.com, as well as subscribe to Wrestling to the Max on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Besides that, we are out of here. We'll talk to you guys in the near future. Until then, if you're not living life to the max,
you're not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Yeah.
Oh.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.